You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
Drinks and a Movie podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode in the Movies That Turn 30 in 2025 series. I'm joined by Malia for the first time in probably a few years.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Thanks for being here at your apartment.
Yeah. Although now I'm immediately pissed off because I didn't think of the fact that it's been 30 years and now I feel really old.
Oh, yeah. No.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm definitely going to need that drink now.
We're talking Jumanji from 1995, and we're going to pair this one with a new distillery-only release. I mean, it came out a few months ago, but this is Nelson's Greenbrier Rye Whiskey, 90 proof, from Nashville, Tennessee, coming in at 8 years old. Let me get that sound. There you go.
Thank you.
So I'm stoked to have this because, yeah, it was a distillery-only product. Unfortunately, I don't know whether or not it's going to hit shelves out here in California or anywhere else. Hopefully someday it will, but I was traveling to Kentucky for work and flew into Nashville, so I was able to stop by and pick it up. So let's see what they got on the back here. This bottle of Nelson's Greenbrier Rye Whiskey honors the most popular American whiskey style from the pre-Prohibition era. Made with locally sourced rye and corn with a touch of malted barley, it is aged in new charred oak barrels, distilled with precision at our Nashville distillery. This bottle serves as a tribute to the diverse whiskey styles once produced at the original Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery, founded by Charles Nelson in 1860. Hell yeah, man.
Damn.
8 years old, too. Gotta love that.
Oh.
So we've been warming up with the Nelson Bros Rye or Nelson Brothers Rye, that came out probably 2 or 3 years ago now. Man, time flies. This one's 92.5 proof. You've heard me talk about it many times, so we've kind of just been warming up on that. You can have more of this if you want to compare.
Oh, yes, please. Give me a little taster. Well, now how should I do it? Should I taste the new one first? I'll taste that with you. I need you to guide me through this since you're the man with the mostest now.
I'll do the new one since I've already been kind of chewing on the other. So here we go. So this is a fresh cracked seal, so we're just going to open it up a little bit.
I'm literally just imitating everything you're doing.
Yeah, we're swirling it up. Oh, man, that's a good rye aroma for sure.
Give me the notes, Rudy. What are you getting? What are you getting?
It's tough. I'm not on a good one right now. It's definitely sweeter. Like, it's for sure rye. It's allspice. I want to say, like, maybe a hint of brown sugar.
I smell vanilla, personally.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I get, like, a strong corn note out of it, too, even though it's,
like
rye.
Roasted corn. I could get roasted corn. We're getting technical now. Probably roasted blue corn. I'm feeling a nice...
The blue one?
Yeah, nice roasted blue corn.
Well, funny enough, the other one smells sweeter to me now,
Way sweeter.
like more cinnamon sugar. When typically I get a little more of like a citrus off the Nelson Brothers one.
Yeah, no, this is way sweeter smelling. Okay, I'm going for the new one. I'm going to taste it.
Cheers.
Cheers, chin chin. Ooh. Oh. I taste something very familiar and I can't place it and it's going to drive me crazy.
Does it remind you of Christmas?
No, it reminds me of caramel corn. That's what I taste. Like the aftertaste, like a Cracker Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that.
Oh, wow. The other one is way sweeter.
Oh, yeah?
At least I think so. But it's been, hold on.
I got to say, right now, it's not really like popping off to me that much. Like, I get the spice on the front. I get a little bit of that caramel corn on like the back end that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I did try it at the distillery, and I did compare both of these when I was over there. And I felt in that initial tasting that the Greenbrier Rye, the 8-year one, was like way more depth of flavor. Like, I always felt that the Nelson Brothers one was like pretty light for a rye. And one of my guests described it as like it's like a summer rye. Like, you could drink this in hot weather, and it's like, because usually with rye, I like them in like the fall, Christmassy time, Thanksgiving time. They're spicier, more holiday-ish, wintry. But this one, I always get like a little lemon citrus. Definitely the rye, definitely the pepper, but more of a citrus sweetness. Whereas the Greenbrier one was more like brown sugar, cinnamon, like pure rye, maybe a little bit of a minty note, but just had more depth. Right now, I'm not quite getting that depth.
Are ryes like wine where you really want it to open up and it changes the flavor drastically, or no?
I mean, I feel like all the bourbons and ryes are like that.
Okay. Now, would it be sacrilege if you made like a cocktail out of this? Like, is this like you drink this neat, you don't mix this? Or could you do like something spicy?
You could. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, like this one for sure.
Yeah.
The Nelson Brothers one, I can imagine making like a kick-ass old-fashioned. The Greenbrier one, I mean, it's 8 years old, so you know it's older. So I would kind of like, it wouldn't be my first thought to throw in a cocktail, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay.
I mean, if I was able to have like 2 more of these, I would easily make a Sazerac out of it.
Yeah.
Like no problem.
This is delicious. Can I ask you, why did you choose this for Jumanji? Is there a reason? Is there anything thematic, or you're like, this, I want to drink it? Because that's fine.
It's just because I wanted to drink it because I bought it 2 weeks ago and I was like, I need to do this ASAP. So that's why. And then if I had to throw more on it, like I love the label.
Oh, it's real cute.
You know, and I like the leaves and all that. That reminds me of like the vine, when the vines take over the house.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
So that like also came to mind.
Okay.
But yeah, really it was more so like, all right, this is a new bottle I have that I haven't tried yet on the show. So let's do it.
No, I think you're right. Aesthetically, the label is very Jumanji. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Right.
This is not, he's not lying. It is a very beautiful, I can post a picture of it because they need to see it. That is straight Jumanji.
Yeah. No, I love like their old fucking label for this.
Yeah.
It's like one of my all-time favorites. Like I make sure they're always on like display.
I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I do feel like when it comes to liquor bottles, right? I want it to be pretty. Like I want it to look like I could have found it in somebody's basement from 100 years ago. Like that is the aesthetic that I'm going for. Is that weird? Is that wrong?
No, I agree with that. Like the label does so much to sell or get somebody to look at a product, and it's even I find myself kind of thinking like, you know, at what point do I kind of decipher that it's cool or not? Like the Nelson Greenbrier ones, like even their other Tennessee whiskey, like I love how old school the label is, and it is like a reprint of like the original fucking labels from the 1800s. Like you can see that like the design was like pretty much identical to what they're just like redoing it. So I like that it has that old school vibe. You know, old granddad has an old school look. Honestly, initially, I always felt that when I would see the Nelson Brothers ones on the shelf before I got into it and like tried them and fell in love, these labels never really caught my attention. There was something about it that didn't quite work for me, but now it's like such a staple at my house, and I've got all the different finishes, and there's like 2 shelves dedicated to all of them, like on display, and they all have their different colors and slightly different designs. And now I'm like 100% in. But initially, if I'm like just taking these 2 bottles, if I'm going straight out of looks, I'd go for the Greenbrier one.
100%.
Like if I'm like you said, judging the book off the cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you a question? I want to know. It has never occurred to me to ask you this until this exact moment. But considering your obsession, we're gonna go for the most traditional question of all. Desert Island, what's the bottle you're grabbing? Or we're in LA, earthquake, what's the bottle you're grabbing off your shelf to save? You can only take one.
Only one?
Only one. Better love it, baby.
Russell's 15.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
Did that just hurt you really bad?
Yeah, no, it'll be the Russell's 15.
Okay. Why?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Because I've been fortunate enough, especially in the last year, to get some really heavy hitter bottles, like some bucket list shit that I never thought I'd ever have in my life. And they're like currently sitting in my room. Like, so that's amazing to me. And I've tried them all and this and that. And recently in one of I think the last James Bond episode I did, I had all my heavy hitters during that run. And then I went back to do the Russell's 15 again, like at the end, because I don't think I did it on the show yet. And even after all that stuff, I'm just like, dude, this is fucking out of this world good. It's just like the perfect amount of sweet and oak, and the color is just this gorgeous, dark fucking like oil, just, dark color. And it's got that wild turkey sweetness. I don't know how to decipher it, but like, so whenever I do a wild turkey product, I call it wild turkey sweetness because it's its own unique thing. Sometimes I feel like it's kind of akin to bubble gum or like a juicy fruit. You know, it reminds me of that. So it has that plus these like grape and cherry notes and the fucking sweet oak and like is a good proof. So there's like a lot of alcohol and it has so much depth of flavor and fucking texture and, you know, a good finish. And yeah, it's just a banger, man. And I've had some good stuff in that one. I think when I went back to it a couple weeks ago in that last episode, I was like, yeah, this is the one. And it did when, you know, there's this really famous taster named Fred Minnick who judged and did all this stuff. And every year, at the end of every year, he does like his top 100 whiskeys in this like 4 or 6 hour long like blind tasting. Whoa. That's like live streamed. Maybe it's like 3 hours. I don't know. It's long though, but he'll do like 100. It goes on for hours. And that was like number one in his. So I'm not the only one who thinks it's great.
I need to try this. I need to try it now. You've sold me. I'm sold.
Yeah, maybe someday. But yeah, very lucky to have that one. But yeah, that would be it. I mean, there's other ones that come to mind. It's funny because I think whenever I think like the deserted island thing, immediately my mind, truthfully, like first actually goes to like Old Grandad 114 or Wild Turkey 101 or like Knob Creek single barrel is like
comfort bottles.
Yeah, and I think that's more because those are like, I don't drink every day, but if I did, those are definitely like daily sippers. You know, like Old Grandad 114, I think is one of the best bourbons in the game, and it's like $30 and probably underappreciated. It always hits. Like, drink it neat, drink it with ice, drink it in a fucking amazing old fashioned, and like Wild Turkey 101 is like another one that is underappreciated, I feel. Like one of the best bourbons in the game, but I think so many people equate it with like college and doing shots when you're young and like, you know, it's like on the cheaper end. So when you're young, you can buy it and just chug it in, throw it in your Coke and again, do shots or do the Four Horsemen thing or whatever. And that, I think because of that, it has a little bit of a stigma and not everyone realizes that it's like really good juice. And as far as like the cheaper stuff goes, that's like, in my opinion, some of the best shit you're going to get for like $25 or whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if it's like you said, like I have to save one, I'd imagine the Russell's 15 might be and that is hard because there's some, I mean, I have a Jack Daniel's Coy Hill that's a hazmat that's still sealed that I see people like, I see them going for like $900 and up at this point.
What?
Yeah, because it's from a few years ago.
Wait, how much is the Russell 15?
So SRP was $250.
Okay, it's not that bad.
Well, that's SRP. Like the cheapest you would find it for, if they're still out there, they're probably not, is going to be like 500.
Whoa.
500 and not. Like 500 is probably the least you're going to find it for.
It makes me hurt inside.
Yeah, no, it's a real shame. I got really lucky when I got mine. It was a part of this like big bundle with like cases of other Russell's products that my friend and I like threw money in together to get this and like split it. And then I bought off like the bottle for the, you know, SRP price and like gave her like a portion of it. Yeah. Yeah. So I got really lucky with mine.
It's such a different world.
I got like really lucky.
It's true collectorship. And I don't think about booze in that way because I'm not a collector. There's things I'm obsessive about, but I get it. The thing that makes it difficult though, and what you collect is it's perishable. You know what I mean? Like eventually, like if for you, where do you define the line? Because you buy it and it's on a shelf, but ultimately these things are meant to be enjoyed. Yeah. So how do you decide? Is like, do you have your special occasion bottles, or is it just for you? Is it just like, you know, okay, I'm going to open this today, and it's like your own personal treat? Yeah,
I've been better about, because there's some stuff that I got and I like just didn't open because it's like my little trophy. Mm-hmm. But I've been better in the last year with stuff like Russell's 15 or my George T. Stagg or my William Lee Ruweller and all that, like where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to fucking open this today and I'm going to fucking have some. Yeah. You know, and I'm going to take it to my friend's pad and like he's going to have some too. And I'm going to do it on the show. So I'm trying to be better about that because I did get really caught up in just the game of just like having it on display and not really enjoying it when that's the whole point. I think also because I'm in a living situation where I can't like host people right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going to go through this stuff more. Like once I have a different setup, I'm probably going to have like regular, like monthly, like, hey, everyone come over and let's drink shit.
If I don't get an invite,
together.
I'm going to be real pissed.
Oh, no, you will.
I'm telling you right now. Everyone heard it on here on the podcast. I'll be pissed. I better get an invite. I get it. It's like buying a pair of Christian Louboutins with those red bottoms and knowing as soon as you step on the sidewalk, those things are scuffed.
Yeah, right.
You know, but they're meant to be worn. They're shoes. So it's a mental hiccup.
And very much that. So it is kind of a weird thing. And most of my stuff is open. Like I think I've opened everything at this point. Like that Coy Hill Jack Daniels I mentioned, like that one's still sealed. But that is also very much like, okay, you know, when I eventually get married, that's going to be the night I open it, you know, shit like that. So that's a special occasion. Like the Russell's 15, I don't like sit and drink it every night. Like that's kind of, okay, an occasion pour. Like if I get this new job, I'm drinking that. Like I'm going to have a fucking full 2-ounce pour of that shit, among other things. And and it's funny because that's also like, I would hate to let anything go away because I also like to know I have it. But in knowing that, like, they don't plan on making Russell's 15 again, you know, and who knows, maybe they do it next year. Maybe they do it 20 years from now. Like, you never know. Mm-hmm. They just released Jack Daniel's 14 a few months ago. And that was the first time they did a 14-year-old expression in like many decades, like not even in our lifetime.
Whoa.
You know, like shit like that. So, but there is something special to that, right? Like the fact that it is one and done does give it a little like, you want to enjoy it. And I mean, I think I told you about this. I've been dealing with a close death in the family recently that like really kind of took a toll on me. And going through the house and everything and like getting rid of stuff and clearing it out. And there's just all kinds of shenanigans. And it got me thinking, like I was talking to my parents about it. I'm like, man, it's kind of crazy. Just like, in our lives, like just all the stuff we accumulate, like just stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you fucking die and it like doesn't mean anything. It's just like, there's all that stuff I fucking hoarded over here and now it's just getting trashed or whatever. So that kind of got me thinking, like I started thinking about like all my whiskey and other things too, right? But in my room, that's like all my walls are like whiskey right now. So I was thinking about that, and that did make me start drinking more of my better stuff more. Because it's like I get this stuff, I acquire all these hitters, these bangers, again, like bucket list stuff. But I'm like, well, I don't want to waste it. So I'm going to drink like the cheap bottle right now, you know, that I can get at any time, anywhere. And now I'm like, well, shit, man, I can die at any moment. Like,
I was just gonna say,
I can die, and like, what's gonna happen with all this? You know, like,
well, it's that
this
smoke
is all
them
just
while
gonna
you got
go.
them.
Yeah,
it's the smoke them while you got them opinion, and I think that's the trap we all fall into. And I think if there is anytime you do deal with a death, because I do think that is when you have to weed through other people's stuff, or like for me, we lost our family home and I had to have my parents like move down here and from Seattle to LA, and I had to help go through everything, like my own, you know, your parents tend to keep your toys. Like I had to go through my whole childhood worth of stuff, and you start to self-evaluate like what's worth keeping and what's not. And like my mom in particular, and I think this is an interesting thing too, is, you know, she was so depressed about the whole situation that she got rid of stuff that now she wishes she hadn't, because she was just so emotionally distraught over what was happening.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, just let it all go. And now she wishes she had it. And so I think two things can be true at once. I think we do tend to collect and hoard and hold on to too much junk, but I also think there are things that are important to keep if you can. Because if it tells a story about who you are, or like you know, my husband's aunt passed away in December and she left me all of her wine. You know what I mean? Because she knew, Malia drinks wine, she'll take the wine. So I think things have a way of finding their home. But it does start, I try to do like a yearly cleanse of my closet, even just because I'm like, okay, you accumulate. Like I had stuff from high school and I'm like, okay, are we going to wear that again? Probably not. Like it's taking up space. So I think you can weed your life out while also appreciating what you have. But I think what you said is really important. It's like, without getting too deep, but I do feel like this is a good tie into Jumanji, because when you have your life and time taken from you, that is very true for all of us. There is no guarantee of anything. So, like wear the Louboutins, drink the bottle, because you genuinely don't know if you're gonna have a chance tomorrow, which sounds really dark, but I feel like you could also look at it as like a very exciting way forward too. Yeah. I think I just got way too deep. I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, enjoy it all. Enjoy it all. Yeah, like I can't imagine like all that stuff I have, and like, if something were to happen to me, like just my parents walking in and being like, what the fuck are we going to do with all this? Like, why does he have so many bottles?
It could be so much worse. It could be like strap-ons.
Yeah, that's true.
It could be so much worse.
Yeah, that is very true.
A weird niche collection of porn. Yeah.
Jeez.
Aren't you glad you had me on?
Yeah. But yeah, man. All right, here we go. Jumanji. A good tie-in, by the way.
Little Alan Parrish. He just vanished about 25 years ago.
Is a mystery that began a long time ago when Alan Parrish was just a young boy who made an incredible discovery.
Jumanji. You want to play? Alan, look. In the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8.
What's happening to you?
26 years later, Peter and Judy Shepard are about to play the same game and make an incredible discovery of their own.
Are you Alan Parrish?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Everyone thought you were dead.
Now,
Never shaved before.
they must roll the dice
You're playing the game I started in 1969. I'm gonna have to play.
and finish the game together.
It's not my turn.
Whose turn is it?
Sarah Whittle? Alan. 26 years ago, we started playing a little game.
Whoa, God, sir! Alan, I have spent over 2,000 hours in therapy convincing myself that this doesn't exist.
Sarah, we're all gonna sit down. We're gonna finish.
Now for an update on the extraordinary events unfolding in Brantford, New Hampshire.
TriStar Pictures presents Robin Williams. Jumanji.
So this was directed by Joe Johnston, who I didn't even realize directed The Rocketeer.
Oh.
Directed Captain America: The First Avenger. Jurassic Park 3, Hidalgo, October Sky, The Page Master, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So that's cool. I haven't seen that in forever.
It's a good one.
But yeah, let me see what the IMDb synopsis says. When two kids find and play a magical board game, they release a man trapped in it for decades and a host of dangers that can only be stopped by finishing the game. So number one, I haven't seen this movie in years, like so long. And even before I came up with the doing the movies that turn 30 idea, I've been like, you know what? I got to watch this movie again. Never got around to it. And then I put it on my list for this little series. And I got to say, man, like going back and watching it the other day, I loved it. I think it was an absolute banger. I think it holds up really well. Obviously, there is some bad, like really bad CGI in there. It's 95. It was
great then.
Yeah. But I think the practical effects are really great, man. Like when that man-eating plant comes, like opens up and tries to pull him in, and there's the lion and the crocodile and all that shit. Like there's some good practical, the spiders, like good practical effects. And one thing that really stood out to me is, I feel like I say this a lot, but I think it's true. This goes into the category of like they don't make them like they used to type of movies. And one thing I never realized before was this felt very much, I don't know, maybe you felt this way watching it today, but it felt very much like a gateway horror movie for kids. Like even the musical stings and kind of like some of the shit that like the drums are kind of creepy when he gets sucked into the fucking game. That's creepy. And, when they're in the attic and even that guy is like, oh, Alan Parrish. he didn't disappear. I think his dad chopped him up in little pieces and buried him in the walls all over the house. I was like, what the fuck? This is like such a dark thing to say. And just, all the little musical moments and stings. It felt very much like horror, but gateway horror for children.
I was thinking the exact same thing, and then it got me thinking to all the shows and movies. Like, remember, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And all of So Weird, all of these things. There was a period in the early 90s to like late 90s.
Erie, Indiana, Goosebumps.
Oh, God, it was in this stuff. It was scary, but at least my parents said I was watching Tales from the Crypt when I was a kid as well. Like there was obviously adult horror, but there was this subcategory, and I think it's not crazy to categorize it that way, of like kid horror. And I feel like I started laughing actually when I put the movie on today, because I'm like, oh my God, of course, classic story it's like the classic 90s story. Kids' parents died, the aunt or the uncle's taking care of them, and they get into some shenanigans and they fall, you know what I mean? It's just, and there's no supervision of the kids. They're just running rampant, which like, so was I. I didn't have a cell phone. This was pre-cell phone. I was one around Seattle, like be home by dark. Okay, that's what I was doing. It's like, I remember watching this film as a kid and being terrified. I was at a flea market this weekend and I saw a Jumanji, like a repro, and I'm like, hell no, God no, like when the drum's gonna happen. But I do think there was this special period of time where there was horror created for children. And I don't know if it was like this kind of weird evolution of like the 70s and 80s, like fun slasher films, like, kids might enjoy versions of this too, because there is no version of that for children nowadays. Parents nowadays wouldn't, like, look at the remake of Jumanji. Where's the fear? None. There's nothing scary about the new Jumanji. Yeah. This is terrifying.
I never bothered watching the sequels. Well, I guess the closest we would have now, as far as I know, is probably Stranger Things would maybe be in that category.
But even that like isn't period specific. They're in the 80s.
Yeah, right.
Like it's like we can make it scary, but it's got to be in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was, well, first of all, I got to say, this opening scene I think is good, but made me laugh. Like these two kids are trying to bury it in some nondescript time frame. And one of them is like, it's trying to get me. And they, pulls them out of the hole. And then when he's like, the youngest boy is like, what's going to happen if somebody finds it and plays it or whatever? This is like such a cliche moment, but it's hilarious. This other kid like turns and looks at him and he's like, then may God have mercy on his soul. And then there's like a lightning flash. I was like, good Lord.
It was so effective then. It
was. But man, and here's another thing. I guess if we kind of start at the beginning here, there's obviously a theme in this movie as well of fathers and sons that I don't think was explored as much as it could have been and probably should have been. They set that up, but also, so I think that's something that can be improved or could have been improved. But also, I have to say, like in this beginning scene here, it's now 1969 and Alan's getting chased by this gang of kids. They're trying to bully him, and he goes into the shoe shop and sees his dad. His dad seems pretty cool with them, and it's all good. And he tells him, and tell me your thoughts on this. He tells him, like, hey, man, like, you can't always run away from your problems. You got to stand up. You got to defend yourself. And, at some point, you got to be a man and take care of business, whatever. I didn't see anything wrong with that. I don't know how you felt about it, but because then later in the movie, there's the moment where he is getting upset with the monkey boy because he like didn't grab the board and the pelican took it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he tells him something similar. He's like, yo, don't cry and this and that. He's like, you need to, be a man and all that. And then he realizes, he's like, oh shit, like I've become my father. I'm saying the same stuff. And he hugs him and it's this wholesome moment. He's like, 26 years in the jungle and I still became, what I was afraid to become or whatever. But when I think back to that moment earlier in the movie, I didn't see the father as like a bad guy. And then obviously the same actor plays Van Pelt the hunter, mm-hmm. which is another layer of it where he's literally trying to kill him, trying to kill Alan. And so there's that aspect of it too. But I didn't feel the father was like that bad a guy, at least with what they show us. I mean, when he does yell at him because he doesn't want to go to the school or whatever, I just don't know that they gave enough to, I don't know, show that they were, what's the word? Not estranged, but clearly there's a history where the son doesn't quite get along with him.
I think it was more of, again, I think we have to put ourselves back in 95 when the movie was being made. And I think, you know, the parents that would have been taking their kids to see this movie, I think would have identified a lot with Alan Parrish because it comes from the era where it's like men don't show emotions. It's buck up. You do what you're told. And so I think they just assumed the audience would get it. They would instantly identify with that relationship because I think that is the big thing, right? And that's the irony of the film is he had to grow up. He had to face his fears because he was sucked into the board game and had to live there for 26 years to save his life. And so he ultimately did what his dad wanted. And then you retroactively learn in the beginning of the film that his disappearance destroyed him, you know? And so I think there's a lot of themes happening there of what masculinity means and what being a man means. And I do think it is a thing that had this movie with this script been made today, it would have been a very different film. I think they would have had to fill in those gaps because it's been more normalized that men can cry. And I don't think it was necessarily that the dad was a bad guy. It was just he clearly didn't understand. He probably was more macho leaning, and he just was more of that time where you do not question your father, you do not question your parents, and you go to the school and you do the things. And maybe he would have been the kids bullying on Alan, but his son was obviously more sensitive and more quiet, and they're playing off of that dynamic of it. So I think it's more of like he was misunderstood by his father, not so much that he probably was scared of his dad because, again, it's 69. I think that's the dynamic they're setting up. Yeah. But I think Van Pelt, I think, was his nightmare envisioning of his father,
right.
You know? It's like, it's the soap moment from A Christmas Story, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't think there was anything wrong with him saying like, yeah, man, like, you know, and even, you know, he gets beat up and they come home and his father's like, oh, if I knew, doesn't he apologize? He's like, oh, if I knew there was like 5 of them going after you, you could have stayed in the shop. But hey, man, like you stood your ground, you know, you defended yourself. Like it was 5-on-1. Like, you know, I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. And
I think it was more of, I think it's just more of, and I think it's a classic story, and that's why so many of the stories and like the teen movies of the 80s especially are about people feeling misunderstood by their parents. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that's just all that they were really kind of playing on. And in a way I actually enjoy how they didn't used to fill in all those gaps for us. I do feel like films used to trust their audiences more to be able to figure out what's going on. So I think that's a little bit of that too. But I do think maybe, we're not given a ton of evidence that his dad was actually a bad dude. Yeah. He was just a tough, very stereotypical man of the era that's like, I'm a business owner, my son's being a bitch. You know what I mean?
One thing I got to say with the performances too is, you know, Robin Williams, I feel like we always think of him as the comedian and the comedic actor, but I feel like we often forget that he's done so many dramatic roles, possibly even more, or at least just as many, I'd say, as his comedic roles. And what I love about him in this movie, especially watching it now, there's never a moment where it feels like he's trying to be funny. Honestly, like even there's when the monkeys are in the fucking car and he's like, rah, and he's like yelling gibberish and he's like, the monkeys are in there and they like think he's insane, you know, and it's like, that's kind of funny. The way he talks to Bonnie Hunt or whatever, when he's like, yep, it's time to play the game. It's your turn. I've been in there for 26 years because you fucking ran away. Like, you know, and there's all that. But for the most part, I feel like he really plays it straight. And I appreciate that. I'm like, dude, he's like going for it. Like he's going for the for the drama here. Like you really feel it when he's like excited that he was saved, and when he's like, "Where's my parents? Where'd they go?" And he's trying to find them, and he just learns that they passed away. And then, I mean, yeah, he's just so good, and I think it really works for the movie that he does that. He doesn't cheese it up. He's just fucking being the character. He's just acting, doing a hell of an acting job.
I think that's the thing. It's so funny we're talking about this because 2 days ago, I had a conversation with my husband and we were watching, I forget what we were watching. And I was just like, there was some comedic actor that's usually comedic. Oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. And I was like, comedy actors make the best dramatic actors. And I will die on that hill because so many dramatic actors cannot do comedy, right? And I brought Robin Williams and my husband goes, Robin Williams didn't do things other than comedy. And I was like, then you have not been paying attention. And I was like, Hook, Flubber, Dead Poets Society, like Good Morning Vietnam, obviously Jumanji. And he's like, no, I'm like Mrs. Doubtfire. And I'm like, there's comedic moments, but there's so much pain and there's so much truth in his performance. And I think that is why he was such a bright light, because many actors, like imagine, just like, let's just put on our theoretical, like imagine if Jim Carrey had been cast in that role, which obviously like predates that. It would have been so goofy. It would have been very infantile, which he could have done. He got sucked into this board game. He could have played it like a kid because he never matured, but he didn't. There's an innocence that is so truthful, but that somehow it was always, no matter what Robin Williams did, there was a light in his eye that made him feel so enigmatic. And I think there's only a few actors that have ever been able to, and I would argue that Johnny Depp is one of those actors, especially in his early work, that there's this childlike innocence they're able to portray without laying it on the table. Like it's so innately dropped into who they are. And I think that's why it's kind of made this movie, with the exception of the CGI, which has not aged well. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, Jumanji it has timeless themes, and the performances are brilliant. Like it's so even from little monkey boy and his little muteness and only talks to his sister, and like the way that
Kirsten Dunst.
I know Kirsten out here just doing the Lord's work. She's such a little ass when she's little too, fucking with the realtor person. Yeah. She's like telling that horrible story about her parents, and she's like,
well, I was gonna say even that moment. Sorry, I know you were on one,
no, it's fine.
When he goes to the cemetery and sees that his parents are dead, and he's just like staring at it. And when she's like, our parents died too. And it's like an emotional moment. And then she does the lie again. Like they were in the Middle East doing it. To put a joke right there is such an interesting thing to do. And but yet it kind of worked.
I think it's because I think in a lot of ways, and again, maybe I'm just thinking about it all too deeply, but I do feel like this film, on its surface, right, it's a kid's movie with scary elements about a board game gone bad. But ultimately, I think thematically what this story is, it's a story about choice, about self-growth, about dealing with grief, and the story is about two people at different times of their life in different circumstances dealing with the death of their parents and this life moving forward they've never done. And you have one hand, you have Kirsten Dunst out here making little bullshit bitch lies, and then you have Robin Williams who is having to just now rectify that, oh my God, I've been gone 26 years. Everybody's dead. And it's kind of my fault. Like Bonnie Hunt's over here in therapy all fucking wiggy, and she was like hot girl in town. Like, I don't know. She was looking spicy in the beginning of the film, all of those elements. And so I think it's, and again, back, and maybe I'm just so biased because this is when we were kids, I feel like there was an emotional intelligence to children's or family films, and even like, honestly, all the films, the late 80s into the late 90s, there was a certain kind of, without being in your face, without being cheesy, there was this very, not like a Leave It to Beaver morality, but really looking at life and the challenges of life and being able to watch kids in a digestible way for young kids to learn how to navigate these kind of terrifying things. And you just don't have that in movies or television anymore. Not in a way that I think is done as tactfully and honestly as honestly as it used to be. Because it wasn't handled with kid gloves. Like, we're going to show you scary stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you said it earlier. Like, they didn't treat the audience like they were dummies at that time. Like, now they kind of do that. Everything's got to be explained and spelled out. And it's like they don't trust the audience. But sadly, more and more, it seems that maybe the audience does want it spelled out. Maybe, that's kind of the sense I get from some folks. And, now they would for sure beat you over the head with those themes instead of just like planting seeds and letting you take from it what you will. And I think that is well done. I mean, the stuff I was saying earlier had nothing to do with it not being like explained enough. Like, I understand what's happening. I just, I think a little more could have been dealt with a little more. But yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And yeah, I mean, when he comes out, Alan Parrish, it's like he's also not only now like having to deal with this, and there is something to it. It kind of reminds me of it, just in the way that it's like, all right, we have to overcome our fears, and we have to stand up and like fight it. And there's no running away. It's like we have to finish the game. And I just love the concept. I think the whole concept, like whoever pitched the idea of like, it's a board game, but what happens in the game happens in real life and it causes mayhem. But the only way to end it is to finish, and you have to like see it through to the end. You have to commit. And I love that aspect of it. And yeah, man, his performance, I mean, and one of my favorite moments is when the little boy is like, oh, he doesn't want to help us because he's scared. And then he's like scared, and he does that whole monologue of like, you've never fucking been out, whatever he says. I'll insert the thing.
Come on, Judy. He's not going to help us. He's afraid.
What did you say?
You're afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Let's go set it up in the living room.
No, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
Whatever it is, we'll handle it by ourselves. We don't need your help.
I don't think so. You think monkeys, mosquitoes, and lions are bad? That's just the beginning. I've seen things you've only seen in your nightmares. Things you can't even imagine. Things you can't even see. There are things that hunt you in the night. Then something screams. Then you hear them eating. And you hope to God that you're not dessert. Afraid? You don't even know what afraid is. You will not last 5 minutes without me.
So, you're gonna help us?
I'll watch. I'm not afraid.
It's such a good moment, and they're in that close up, and he just gets like closer and closer to the kid. He's like, then you hear screams, and then they're eating, and you're hoping that you're not going to be next or whatever. Like, oh, it's so good.
It's so interesting because I'm like thinking about this so beyond the scope of a film now. And there's so many things that are brought up in this film that I do think, I mean, if you're doing a whole series on like, movies that are 30 years old, it's like it's impossible to get around like what was going on and like the tide shift of how people were raising their kids and all of that. And so much of that is apparent in this movie. And I think so much of it, like, and I didn't even think about it this way, but like, you're right. It is all about like, you have to finish. And so the dad lays it out in the beginning of the film and he's like, you got to face your fears. And that's all it is. Like quitting isn't an option.
Yeah.
Which I think is so interesting. And I think what makes that such a fascinating concept now and why I think it'd be so interesting to see a true, because I would not consider like the remakes or the whatever, the continuations of the universe. So it's kind of not a remake, but more of a sequel.
Yeah, like sequels.
Yeah,
right?
which loosely doesn't really work in my mind, but that's a whole other story. it would be interesting because nowadays I do think there is a real quitter mentality because no one has attention spans. So it's like, what would the equivalent nowadays be? Like, would a kid finish the game or would they put it away? I mean, this is getting way big now, but it is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I don't know that I even want to go down that road.
No.
Yeah. I shouldn't say what I think of all that, but they probably would not finish the game.
No.
Because people don't have the same grit or tenacity or drive or will and it's become a little too acceptable. But maybe that's why I kind of agree with the father in the beginning. I don't know. Does that make me a bad guy? I don't know.
I think it's all relative too. It's like we're watching, the movie starts in the 1860s and we go to the 1960s and then 96 or 95 or whatever it is. And so you're getting like for example, that ridiculous line at the beginning, like God save their souls or whatever. Yeah. Because again, like these kids, it was like what, 1869? Theoretically, these kids grew up during the Civil War. They saw some shit. So they're like, oh Jesus, God save these people. So it's like you're seeing this watering down of like by the time it's like, oh, your parents died, you want to talk anymore? Try going to the jungle, you little bitch. It's just like watering down of like what you like the hell that you've like experienced.
I do like, too, that, you know, these earlier movies weren't afraid to put people in peril. And I forgot that there's, like, people out there getting killed and shit. Like, that lady gets killed by the wasp and, you know, other stuff. And even at the end, like, they won the game just in time. But there's the moment where, you know, the kid's a monkey. Kirsten Dunst got shot with the poison dart or whatever, the poison plant. And she's just there, like, dying and shit. And you know, they won it just in time, and I do have a huge the one flaw in the movie to me, plot wise, that I just don't understand. Why is it, and I'm jumping ahead here, but why is it that Alan and Sarah remember what happened when everything was back to normal? And even though the kids weren't alive yet, they still lived through all of that. So to me, it only really makes sense if Alan and Sarah all of a sudden are now back in his living room with no memory. All of a sudden the game's over and they're like on the little thing and that's it, no memory. But instead they're like, oh shit. And then they literally stop the kids' parents from dying. Like, don't, you know? Like, so why did they keep it? I'm fine with them keeping their memory. I don't feel that was a plot hole, but it does stress me out the fact that they lived like 2 entire lifetimes. Like, how did that bleed through? They're like, oh shit, we get to be kids again. We're going to make some different choices. Yeah. And when you put it, it's kind of a blessing. They kind of got 2 lives. They got 2 lives. They got 2 whole lifetimes. Imagine Alan on the playground after living through the fucking jungle, like kicking ass, macheting people. Yeah. 26 years in the jungle just to get reverted back to being a kid. God. Puberty twice. But that is a great moment when his father comes back. He's like, I forgot my notes, my speech or whatever. And, you know, he hugs him and his dad's like, no, I do love you and all that. I just, you know what, man, we'll talk about it tomorrow. It's all good. I like that. Yeah. It's a good movie. It's such a good movie. It holds up so much, but it makes me so emotional. To me, it's like Hook. Like Hook, I haven't even watched since Ron Williams died. I still can't emotionally do it. That movie destroys me in general. The Peter Pan story is like my favorite story of all time. And that, actually there's never been a version of it that I haven't loved because I think they hit on different, okay, what are you going to say? Bring it up. That new Wendy movie they did. Oh, see, I didn't watch that one yet. Good. I wasn't ready because I was actually stressed out about it. But I was the one adult taking myself to the Pixie Hollow movies of Tinkerbell. So put that where you want. But yeah. I really, like, for me, Hook it's a perfect film. And it's really? I think it's a perfect film. Whoa. I forget, did Spielberg direct it or just did he produce it? I think he directed it. Oh, now I don't know. I'm second guessing everything now. I think he did. Yeah, I mean, I guess this was like a few years ago now when I was still living at the house he directed it. Living at the house in Azusa, we watched it, like my roommate randomly put it on and I was like, oh shit, I haven't seen this in years. And when I was a kid, it used to get me kind of emotional too. Mm-hmm. You know, even though I didn't fully, and that's the thing with a lot of those movies of that time. It's like you can be a kid and not understand all the dialogue, but still keep up and know what's happening. It can still resonate with you emotionally. Parts that always stuck out to me was when he is in that like little cavern and he sees like his old like teddy bear or whatever. And that's what like reminds him how to fly. Mm-hmm. You know, like he remembers being like landing there or whatever. Like, yeah, all that stuff. And when his memories come back and it's like him as a baby and the carriage rolls down and he gets like taken in. And yeah, like I remember those moments. But when I watched it as an adult a few years ago, like one of the parts that really got me was when he first gets back to Neverland, when he still like doesn't remember it. Mm-hmm. And all the kids are like, Peter. And they're like, it's you. And that kid's like, they like take his glasses off and he's like moving his face, his face. Or yeah. And he's like,
you're in there, Peter.
He's like, it is you and all that. And he like doesn't know what the hell's happening. But that music was just so good too. I mean,
this is gonna sound really stupid, but when he finally can see the Never food, I'm gonna literally start crying right now. It's like the imagination. That is a good moment too.
That's a good moment, yeah.
I think the thing is, and again, it's like talking about these movies, and you touched on it. It's like when you grow up with these movies, like when these are the movies that are released in your childhood, there was truly, I want to call it an intelligence because I don't know what else to call it, but you are able to grow with these films in a way that as you age, different parts of it are going to affect you emotionally. And there was a brilliance to that. And I don't know why. I don't know why so many of those movies happened at that time. Like if the studio system was just like green lighting stuff that had that kind of writing, where now maybe they're not doing that. But there's so much about it. There's this constant, it's so much about introspection. Is that the word? Introspection of yourself and like aging and what aging looks like and what part of us do we lose and what can we hold on to. And I feel like a theme in the 90s a lot was imagination. And like you know, obviously the Santa Claus, which to me is like my favorite film of all time. And you know, that whole classic line, it's like, you know, believing is seeing isn't believing. And that is, I feel like, so much of the films in the 90s is kind of that thing. And Hook is very reminiscent of that. It's like as you age, you get jaded or bitter or whatever. Right. And you see it even in Jumanji. You're seeing what life has done to Alan. And or what life did to his dad. You know, where at the end of it, it's like, well, ultimately we're all kids and ultimately we all want love and acceptance, but life has made us this way. Yeah. It's a theme that I don't think is talked about the same way anymore, especially I think there's adult content that is obviously made about like reminiscing of nostalgia, but it's from this very bitter angle of self-aware adults being aware of what we've lost. It's not from the perspective of children learning, and then, you know what I'm saying? And I wonder if that's why, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent now, but I wonder why that's why so many millennials are way more introspective in a lot of ways, because we grew up watching things where kids and adults were always self-analyzing, where content nowadays, it's not doing that. It's telling you you're probably going to have anxiety or mental health problems, but it's not actually going on the journey with you, which I think is really interesting. Thinking about it.
And we were kind of having a little bit of this conversation before we recorded. It's like, I think good storytelling is good storytelling, and there's themes and beats you can hit that are just so universal and will always work across the mediums. And then now, in the last 10, 20 years, storytelling has been sacrificed for virtue signaling and pushing agendas as a means to just make money, and it's all creatively bankrupt. And people don't like to hear that, and I know I have some friends that get mad when I say that shit, but that's what I believe, and I think the proof is in the pudding. That's not to say that there isn't still some good stuff coming up here and there and time to time. You know, I'm still watching new stuff. I'm trying to keep up, but I think it just doesn't hit the same way, you know? And it's like, And somehow they even take old concepts and like that already worked and like make them worse. And then they try to like tell you how to feel and all that shit. It's just shenanigans. They don't leave it up to you, like, which is what a lot of these movies did. They didn't treat you like you were stupid. They laid something out for you and you take from it what you will and you grow with it. And, you know, that's that.
I think it was an acceptance of humans. And this is going to sound like woo-woo-y, but I do think it's, you know, like we said, children's programming, there were scary versions of it. There aren't anymore. They were not afraid of kids being exposed to different emotions. So I think there was an innate, like, obvious awareness that every emotion serves a purpose. And it doesn't make art good or bad. Like, there shouldn't be things that kids are sheltered from as far as emotions. And there's a way to weave it through them that it's actually more effective of getting kids to think about things in certain ways. They might not understand it if you hammer it over their heads, or they're going to think it's cheesy and tune out. But if you do it in a way like Jumanji does, where it's not a horror film, but there's really scary elements. There's life and death consequences for not facing your fears or making the wrong decision. And all that, the insane hundreds of people that it took to take that idea from actual creative idea to movie theater screens all agreed that kids can handle that. And now, 30 years later, we're still talking about this movie because it's still holding up. And there's a reason for that. And I don't know if the same could be said about any movie that's released for kids nowadays. Like, in 30 years, are they going to be dissecting it on a podcast, talking about how emotionally intelligent it was? Probably not.
Yeah, no one's going to talk about the new Snow White.
No.
And when they do talk about it, it's going to be the controversy surrounding it. You know what they still talk about, like, a fucking century later? The first Snow White.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, even, you know, those Jumanji sequels, I never saw them. I doubt anybody's going to do any kind of retrospective on them in the years to come, you know?
Well, they're easy. I feel like they are the reproduction of somebody's brain who never saw the original film, that assumed they knew what it was about, and they assumed it was a one-dimensional, fun blockbuster, like, adventure flick. And yes, you have adventure. Yes, you have kids. Yes, you have elements of levity. But most of that film is depressing as hell. It's, you know what I mean? Let's be honest. It's like there's funny moments because life is innately funny.
Yeah.
And that's why there's comedy in this. It's all the comedy that comes out of Kirsten Dunst is her lying to overcompensate from her grief over losing her parents. Like, again, there's nothing, like, it's all original Disney films. Parents are dead. At least one's dead.
Yeah.
But there's all this that comes from it. So now we get these watered down versions of what were originally really good ideas that we're all walking examples of. We can handle it. Like, stop feeding us bullshit. I'm so sorry. I just got so mad.
That's all right. Yeah. Jumanji's a good movie. Go revisit it, everybody. Siskel and Ebert, I watched their review on it on the way here, and they both didn't like it. I disagree. No, I think it's good. If you're like me and you haven't seen it in years, give it another watch. I think, again, with the exception of like some poor CGI, you know, it is 95. It is what it is. I think it holds up really well. Practical effects are good. Performances are all great. I mean, like the kids, everybody. David Allen Greer, come on. Yeah, man. I don't know that I got much more to say about the movie itself.
No, it's a good one. Go watch it.
Yeah. Well, all right, that's a wrap on this one. Which one of these ryes did you like better, Nelson Brothers or Greenbrier?
I think once I finished it, I think Greenbrier.
Yeah, same. That's the one that when I was going back and forth through the recording is definitely the one. Quite a bit darker too, which makes sense. I mean, it's 8 years old, whereas I think the Nelson Brothers one is like 6-ish, somewhere in there, maybe a little 4 to 6. But
is it the barrel or the time that makes it darker?
The time in the barrel. Well, all right, everybody. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Cheers. for listening to the Drinks in a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks in a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksinamoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.